Hanuman's tail never really listens to Hanuman at all. It has its own will because that's goddess Parvati who is taken a form of a tail.
Yeah. So coming to the first point of your question, Hanuman's, this literally questions the entire belief system that people have. We have Hanuman. We picture Hanuman in such a way that he's one with his entire body, and he's the owner of the Ashtravidyas, sorry, the Ashtrasiddhis, and such a great, yeah, such a great human, such a great Vanara and devotee of Lord Ram, and that's why we relate to him so much. Even more than Ram, we relate to Hanuman because he is a devotee just like us. So yeah, one thing that can be argued here, we don't have proof about this, but there's one mention in in Ramayana wherein Ravana orders, as soon as Hanuman destroys the entirety of Ashok Vatika, and he gets captured by the Asura army, and he's brought in front of Ravan. Ravan orders his army to light the tail of Hanuman. This is the infamous story that everyone knows, right? But
Correct.
what's quoted in the text is that he tells that the most important abharan of a Vanar is his tail. So that's why he decides to light it on fire. So I think
So
it's
even here, they still describe it as an accessory and not as part of a body, more or less. In a way, you could interpret that as accessory.
yeah. I mean, it's different. It's difficult to extract the literal meaning of the word abharan, as in what Valmiki meant by saying abharan. He might have meant it in a way that it's the honor to have a tail as a vanara. It's a sign of respect, or he could have meant it in a way that it's sort of like an accessory that the forest dwelling vanaras use at the time of battle. So it's really hard to say that, but yeah, that is contrary to popular belief. I came across this whole thing, and I wanted to bring it up as part of this discussion.
This is one thing that's going to, have a lot of questions raised at some point, though. Like people might wonder, like,
Yeah.
uh, never, because no one's ever heard of these stories. I mean, we had a story which was given to us in a certain
Hmm.
way and to suit a
Uh-huh.
certain agenda, right? So we followed it blindly. And not, and here's another fun fact as well. Not many Hindus actually have read Ramayana, Mahabharata, or the Bhagavad Gita. That's another sad point as well, though, because uh, yeah, not many have read it. We've only heard of it, but we've never really read it.
Yeah, the people just have bits and pieces of what they've heard, what they've seen in movies, and what they've heard through propaganda by the government. Let's say propaganda proposed by the government to promote their own ideologies, bits and pieces from every single place. They've just heard it, they've clumped it all together, and whatever they've heard till now is just Ramayana according to them. And when you put across these sort of ideologies wherein it questions their entire reality and their entire belief system, it can really raise a lot of questions. Yeah, I do agree with that.
When Lord Rama first met Hanuman, he
Mm-hmm.
told Lakshmana that not a single word he said was a waste, which meaning that he seems to sound like a person who's well versed in all the Vedas and all the grammar, Vyakaran, and everything, right?
Yeah.
So that goes against the notion that they might not be fully educated or might like they're just regular forest dwellers, because education has been shown such a way that Hanuman is, people always assume that he's just for strength and courage, but he's also someone who's known for his knowledge, which again most people would not know.
Yeah, I do agree with that. As in, here's what people don't actually know about the entire forest dwelling tribe. They think that Vanara means monkey, as in the modern translation. They just think that it's just monkey people. They just literally translate it to that. But these forest people, they were having fantastic knowledge. They were having fantastic knowledge about the Vedas, especially Hanuman. Hanuman being such a gyani, uh, he was literally what do you say? The perfect brahmachari. he knew all the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the scriptures. He was so well versed in everything. And the first time that he saw Rama and Lakshmana, and he did not come out in his vanara, in his natural uh, tribal form. He came out as a rishi muni, and each and every word that he spoke in front of them was pure Sanskrit. It was pure. It was the sign of a perfectly learned man, and he wanted to put it across in such a way that Rama and Lakshmana don't get freaked out when they see how they are in their tribal form. He wanted to make a good impression. So yeah, this is one take on that.
One thing, like we're talking about a region, which is a region which we can still identify. Hampi does exist, and we have caves and everything over there. You spoke
Yeah.
about perfect language, and you spoke about Sanskrit. Now that pulls
Yeah.
up another area. There is this
Hmm.
age-long discussion: which one is the oldest language? What could be the oldest
Yeah.
language? Is there any accurate mention of what language was spoken in Valmiki's Ramayana, by any chance, like which language they used to communicate with?
Yeah. So there's two different styles of Sanskrit. So Sanskrit was the main language which it was written in. Pure Sanskrit at the time of Valmiki that was used to write the entire scripture of Ramayana. But when you look at Uttarakhand, that was the later part that was added. We'll get to the whole Uttarakhand part of the Ramayana later. But you can see a different style of Sanskrit, a modernized style of Sanskrit that's been written in Uttarakhand. Um, the entire first, the Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, Sundara Kanda, and Yuddha Kanda, which is supposed to be the last part of Ramayana, where the entire battle ends. This whole these parts have a consistent Sanskrit language within them. It's of the same style. It's of the same period. But in Uttarakhanda, it's suddenly a modernized, a later version of Sanskrit is being written. So there's no real proof as to which is the oldest language, because after 5,000 years, even plastic decides to erode itself, right? It's really hard to say that after so many years, there's really no proof as to which is the oldest language. We have scriptures in Sanskrit which say that, which date back to 5,000 years, and if we're lucky to find more pieces of literature, that could be wonderful. But yeah, Sanskrit is the oldest written form of literature. But yeah, there are people who argue that Tamil is the oldest language in the world, and it 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 ultimately goes to the entire discussion of Aryans, how they originated, and how the entire world came into the whole civilization period. It's a whole thread of thought. So there's no written proof as to which is the oldest language in the world. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, I'm not a believer of the Aryan invasion theory. I think it's been debunked several
Yeah.
times. So I'm
Yeah.
not a follower of that theory at all. And second, to me, yeah, all native languages of India originated from India. There is this
Hmm.
YouTuber called Project Shivoham. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting to me because of the topic which he covered. So he essentially says that the language, all Indian languages,
Hmm.
comes from the Shiva Sutras.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, so he lays out. He's actually well versed in Sanskrit as well. You could see the way he pronounces Sanskritam and all the other languages. If I'm not mistaken, he's from Andhra Pradesh, but he speaks multiple languages, right? And he breaks it down and he says all of these languages come from Shiva Sutras. Especially there are certain sounds, and he breaks it down every single language. So after
Hmm.
watching that particular video, my perception towards is it Tamil or Sanskrit started to change a bit, because even
Hmm.
if you have to assume one is older than another, both of these languages, for example, let's take Tamil for example. Tamil
Hmm.
is said to be founded by Sage Agastya, right?
Yeah.
Sage Agastya is mentioned in Ramayana. In Valmiki's Ramayana, Sage Agastya is mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So Agastya was the son of Pulastya, who was Saptarishi, right?
Yeah.
But the oldest Tamil literature goes around, I think, documents around 2,500 years or 3,000 years, somewhere of that period. We have that document. So if we are talking about perfect grammar, which Hanuman spoke, perfect language which
Mm-hmm.
Hanuman spoke, and
Mm-hmm.
which means the language had to evolve from one place to another place. It cannot be perfect during the time it was initially started. So even if I have to place Ramayana at 7,000 years,
Mm-hmm.
at the duration of 7,000 years, it was already a perfect and a final language. For example, Tamil is mentioned, and it's from the same
Mm-hmm.
person who was mentioned. It could be maybe at the same time or post that, right? We still can't say pre, post, or during the same time because we don't have proof for it.
Yeah, we don't have written proof on that exactly. That's the whole problem. But yeah, like you mentioned, the whole narrative where Hanuman is speaking a perfect language, for a person in a forest dwelling area to be speaking a perfect language, it had to have been around for at least a minimum of a few hundred years, right? For a language to be that perfect and to reach such a rural area, I would have to agree with that.
And here's one more thing which caught my attention though. It's not just, they never mentioned that he was just perfect with the language. There was very
Hmm.
specific word which was used. He was an expert in Vyakarana. Vyakarana is grammar.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's it, because even today, whatever language we speak, doesn't matter if it's a regional language or if it's a different language, we still make mistakes in Vyakarana. We don't get our own grammars right. Right? We make those
Yeah.
mistakes a lot. And when someone says he was an expert in grammar, that
Hmm.
grammar itself in his language, I would say more than 50% would go towards grammar because of the nuance information that it carries. And those, if he was an expert in those, which only says that it was just wasn't a language, it was more at that point of time. As in, whatever language they spoke was more than just a regular communicative language.
Yeah. It was not just used for communication; it was used for much a much higher purpose.